Well, welcome to R.E.A.L.Talk Coaching Podcast. I'm Coach Sharon, and myself, along with Coach Terry and Coach Tara, are your hosts. And R.E.A.L.Talk Coaching Podcast is a community of change makers. We are here to navigate uncertainty, rediscover purpose, and boldly answer the question, what's next? Together with you, we're more than a conversation, we're a movement, helping all to reimagine life beyond titles, systems, and expectations. We approach these conversations through a coaching lens, meaning our goal isn't to give all the answers or any answers. It is really to help all of us, the coaches here, everyone here, as well as you, to explore new perspectives and possibilities. So, we spent the last 15 episodes reimagining our lives, our careers, our businesses. But today we are here to celebrate and acknowledge the International Coaching Federation's International Coaching Week. And we're also going to be exploring the differences between talking and transforming. And we're bringing the gold standard in coaching to our platform today. So we are here to welcome Chéri Allen, an ICF Master Certified Coach. I learned to say that slow the other day. Master Certified Coach. And so, Chéri, we thank you for being here with us today. And we want you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Thank you so much for inviting me. It is a pleasure to be amongst beautiful women and accomplished coaches myself. So a little bit about myself. I guess I'll start with my coaching journey, just kind of how I came into the coaching realm. It was way back in 2000. God, that sounds so long ago, 2000. And I was working for the Department of Education. And they used to, we all used to go in the office. We weren't really working at home that much back then. And I saw a sign on a little elevator. Somebody was retiring in the training office. And I thought, oh, let me go down and see if I could get a detail into training, because that was what my degree was in business, but I wanted to do people development. And the lady managed a coaching program. And I was like, what's that? And so the director of the training office told me, and I was like, well, I could do that. I think I could do that. I need to learn about it, but I think I could do it. And when I started learning about coaching, I convinced them, because it was only for the managers and the supervisors. And at that time, I was a GS-13. And I said, well, I think that I could, I would better be able to market it if I really understood it. So can I have a coach to experience it? And that was my entree into coaching. And it was so transformational. One of the things that I worked on with my coach at the time was I was always overwhelmed with so much work. And she started asking me questions. And as I answered the questions, I came to realize that the way I showed up at work had a lot to do with how I showed up in my personal life and growing up. And when I put those two together, I was like, oh, this is deep, and I was like, oh, and I really, really fell in love with the fact that you could adapt who you were becoming and who you were just by somebody having a conversation with you. And so from that point forward, coaching was my love. And I just continued to figure out how I could become credentialed and trained and all the things. And so that's a little bit about me from the coaching perspective. But I'm a mom of 3 daughters. I have 6 grandchildren. I'm retired, kind of, I'm a CEO of my company at Choice Coaching and Consulting, and I created my brand, the Diva Breakthrough Experience. And I've written a book. I'm an author. The book is Ditch the Cape: From Superwoman to Sovereign Woman. And so I'm just loving, all things coaching and helping all people decide what you want and get it. And if I can be here to support you, then that's what I want to do. So it's a little bit about me.
Yeah, thank you for telling us about you. being an MCC, that's like at the peak, right? Being an MCC coach represents like 2,500 hours of coaching experience at minimum. It's like the PhD of the coaching world, right? And so, if you could tell our audience, you know, those who may not fully understand the depth of that achievement and accomplishment, what does it truly mean to hold space at that level of coaching mastery?
When I was in training, just learning to become a coach, I had a trainer at the Georgetown program, and he said, team coaching, he says, is the X Games of coaching. That's how he introduced us to team coaching, and I thought that's interesting. And so when I decided to pursue becoming an MCC, I thought, well, this is really the X Games of coaching itself, because it's almost this space where you don't focus on all of the things, checking all the boxes of all the competencies. Yes, we do, but we're not even focused on doing it anymore. It's where it becomes true art. And we already know at any level in coaching, no two coaching sessions are the same. Even with the same client, no two sessions are the same, because the energy and the topics and the depth of where the client wants to go is different. But at the mastery level, it's almost like I see a bullseye. If I were to think about a metaphor, like when I'm coaching people now, I'm like, that center dot, what is it? Target has a little bullseye for their branding. It's like we just go right there. And I'm not thinking about 8 competencies and the sub-competence. I'm not thinking about none of that stuff. None of it. And time escapes me. Where I am escapes me. I'm just in the space with another human being. And it's an experience. And I think it's a very privileged space, because when you are doing it at that level, people, we're all human, and you just get to see the humanness of people at that inner core level, and just nothing is held back, and there's no pretense, and there's no, like, we're just in it, and we're in it together. And then when we come out, we're like, woo, that was deep. I don't even know really what just happened. You know what I mean? But they feel transformed just in their thinking. Yes, they still have to take some actions, and they need to put things into place and be consistent and all the things. But just that moment of being together is just very powerful and it's just special. I just can't put it any other way. Like, and we're not thinking about anybody's competencies.
I like the fact that you mentioned art. It's like an art form when you're at the level of being MCC and working with someone and coaching them. In some of our previous episodes, we talked about, our lives being a tapestry, right? Made up of a lot of different patterns, a lot of different events, a lot of different textures. And we have the ability to weave in what we want in our tapestries, right? And coaching helps us to not only look at what we currently have, but look at what we may want to add. Look at what we may want to remove that no longer serves us. So I like the fact that you brought up, it being an art form at the MCC level, where you're really working with someone to, as we've said, create that next piece of tapestry that will be the imprint, right, on their life and on their future. Um, I love math. So whenever I'm thinking about like coaching and math, and I love the fact that you brought art, because art and math are very connected. We think about, again, the different variables, right, that determine the accuracy of results, right? When we're thinking about a math problem. And one of those variables is incorporating a coach into your system, right? You bring in a coach to help you describe and identify. Again, think about what you want to add, think about what you want to subtract. So we are here to share with our audience that, partnering with an ICF-trained coach is really like upgrading, right? Upgrading your artwork, upgrading your tapestry, upgrading your equation to make it the highest quality possible, right? To get the most best result, but it's always individualized. And I like how you said, it's really about working with the person and looking at that target, right? And it's very particular and it's very specific to that person. I love that coaching gives us that space to be individuals in a time, especially sometimes when we feel like it's easier to just try to go with the flow, right? Or to try to, I look at Sharon's artwork and let me just try to mimic hers, right? But it's not for me to mimic, right? It's for me to create my own and to be able to, and to feel good in creating that space. And I feel like that is what partnering with the coach does, right? It helps you to feel good about being you, being your creative, genuine, we've used the term authenticity a lot in our podcast, authentic self, right? And being able to demonstrate that. So I really appreciate you being here in our space and sharing with us, your insights as a master. Hold up, let me say it right, Sharon. Master certified coach.
Yes.
So I appreciate you for being here. So let's talk about why training really matters. Why does it matter to be an ICF trained coach?
Every profession that wants repeatable, reliable results and outcomes has a structure, has specific competencies, and it has training organizations to deliver that. And I remember like when project management, being a PMP came out, like, oh, it was the PMBOK, was the big deal. And so now, when it came to coaching, if people aren't careful, and that's why I think I love the fact that you have this podcast, you're educating consumers of coaching to understand that having a credentialed coach is important, because anybody can say, I'm a coach, and they do. You look all over social media, people are putting up their little, digital banners with their companies and saying that they're a coach, and they're out there doing harm because they haven't been trained by an accredited ICF approved or any other governing body that approves coaches, the EMCC. So having structures and standards and consistent criteria where trained individuals are evaluated on to prove and demonstrate that they are delivering quality coaching to the consumers of coaching is critical. I mean, we wouldn't want to go to a doctor to, be like, oh yeah, I watched a few, what was that doctor's name? I watched a few House episodes, and I think I can do that. We'd be like, oh no. Right. And so it's no different. I mean, we're in the nitty-gritty of people's lives, their thinking processes, their goals, desires, dreams, things that impact their families, things that impact, their livelihood, things that impact like major parts of all the things that impact our well-being, where people want to live, where they want to work, what kind of social connections they want. Like, these are major things. And so we should be equipped. And there's a standard that we're all evaluated by. So when we say we're ICF coaches and we're, going through our training, and every year, not only have we been trained, because, if you don't use it, you lose it, right? Just like with language. That's why we have to have our every 3-year recertification. So we are on regiments to make sure we do no harm, just like the medical field says, do no harm. We don't want to do harm to people. This is very sacred space of people's lives, and we need to take that seriously. So to be trained, is to show that, and to go through our our coach knowledge assessment, the exam, the coaching exam, and now we have the coach BOK. So the coach BOK is the equivalent of the PMBOK for project management. And so in the coach BOK, now that we have all of these not only the competencies, but expounding on what it really means, what it looks like, what it sounds like. So it is the very foundation of, being trained is the very foundation of then saying, I am a professional. I'm a professional coach. I do no harm, and I know what I'm doing. And we have, the credentials to prove that.
Yes, yes. Coach Reed, you brought up something that I was thinking about all these other types of coaches. And we don't want to throw shade on them because we know that they're doing what they feel is best. And we do also know that in some cases they are doing harm because they're not actually doing the coaching. They might not have been trained. They're more of consultants. They're more of when you think of old coaching, where like people would think compared to basketball or some type of sport where they're out there telling them what to do versus asking those empowering deep thought questions to have them think it out and determine for themselves what directions they want to go. And you also brought up about the now you say it again because I'm gonna mess it up. It's the same as the PMBOK,
The coach pop.
the coach box, yes. And we know in that you mentioned also that it has the the competencies that we go by and the code of ethics that for ICF. And when I think about the competencies and the code of ethics, I think that the code of ethics is more like the ICF values, how they're laid out. And then the core competencies are the unique strengths of the ICF coach. And so I want to ask you, as a coach, there's a difference in the process of coaching and giving advice. And so when we are coaching, how do we make sure that one, we don't give that advice in that process to create the most sustainable change?
So it's interesting, I've evolved over the years in terms of my thinking around this. So the competencies are our foundation, and they help us to have a consistent way of demonstrating the coaching process. And as you look at when the competencies were updated and the wording was tweaked a bit, even the definition of coaching, when it says that we co-create, that co-creation means that there's something dynamic happening in that bubble of coaching or the cloud of coaching, so to speak. And it's coming from two humans that both bring energy to the relationship. And so to co-create, going back to our art analogy, right? It's not just that the client is the only one in the domain, because here we're in this bubble together and we are co-creating. So that means that my intuition, my observations, my background, my things that I'm noticing and sensing, my understanding of certain words until I clarify them, I'm bringing all of that. Because let's make no mistake, we're all individuals and we can't separate ourselves. We already know, you bring your whole self. And that's how we come into this partnership and we co-create. And so what we know is that this is the experience that the client who entrusts us with saying, yes, I'm going to open up what I want solved, which is at this moment in time an unsolvable problem, which is why, coach, I'm here with you. Because before now, it was unsolvable, or else I wouldn't even be in a coaching relationship. And we as the coach come with, okay, and we're all ears and we're all present and we're listening and we're sensing. And we're engaging in the art of inquiry, because all of who I am as a coach is now going to discern, dictate what I pick up on, what I ask. And that's why, just to not jump off too far from your question, but when I've coached clients over a period of time, I encourage them, it's time for you to get another coach. Why? Because I'm me, and I'm going to bring who I am and do what I do from the way I do it. But another coach has their own background, has their own things that they're going to pay attention to, their own intuition, their own experiences. And they're going to bring that to you. And you're going to see a whole nother side of this. What's that thing you look through, the kaleidoscope? Is that right? You're going to see all these other different colors and stuff. Like, so I would be selfish to think that wherever we end up is the end for you. Like, it's just one, ray of that kaleidoscope. So now it's time to go. So I don't think we ever finish coaching, because there's so much, we are such complex beings. Yes. So I think it's important that, obviously, we know the basis of, we don't give advice, but we also need to call, I'm not sure that what you just said harmonizes what you said 5 minutes ago or 2 sessions ago. So I need to understand, like, tell me how that adds up. If it does, they might be like, oh, I didn't even realize I said that way 2 minutes ago or 2 sessions ago. Because remember, we still be in that mirror. But that's, so I give myself permission to really, again, go back to the bullseye. Because I want you, client, to get what you said you want. And I'm going to show you all of what I see. Sometimes we look in the mirror and we turn around, we be like, oh, I know that look like that. That's how I see coaching. Sometimes I need to be the coach to be like, girl, did you know that look like that? I don't know. No, look in the mirror. I'm not telling you look like that, but look in the mirror. Oh, I didn't know that looked like that. So I'm not going to give you advice, but I'm going to make sure you see all the things, because that's what I'm here for. Unless you tell me, I don't want to do that anymore. So we don't give advice, but I think we need to be honest. I think we need to be transparent. I think we need to bring all of ourselves, because it's a co-created relationship. Without the coach, there is no coaching session. So without the client, there is no coaching session. So we bring both of us together, and then we create that very special chemistry that is different in every single session, even with the same client, even because the coach comes different too. I remember when I was at Homeland Security, and my mom passed away in that year, 2010. And I was like, I can't do it. I can't coach right now. I'm working so hard to take care of myself. I'm not in condition to coach. Do no harm. I had to step back and step out. I had to go on the bench for a minute. So I say all of that not only do we not tell our clients what to do in those sessions, but we need to be real with ourselves as coaches, because at certain times, we got to go on the bench. Got to do our own work. We should always be doing our own work, but sometimes you got to step away and do your own work, as opposed to doing your work consecutively while you're doing all the other things as well. So I don't know if did that answer your question about not telling people what to do?
Is that the answer that you wanted to give?
So, you talked a lot about how you bring both sides of yourself, to coaching, and not just you, but the client, the professional and the personal. And I know that with every client I've ever had, professional goes to personal real quick. That's just the nature of who we are as human beings, right? And so, one of the things that I think is going on with a lot of people is what we discussed in the last 2 episodes. So in the last 2 episodes, we discussed a concept by Dr. Keisha Thomas, which was called the pet to threat. That's actually her term. We discussed it on a broader level, and that means, in particular with Black women, how we are encouraged to be excellent when we're hired. But once we start showing those leadership skills, or once we start becoming excellent, right, then suddenly we're a threat. And in the same case, we discussed with wonderful Dr. Shauna Norris, her book called Glass Jars and Glass Ceilings. And it was a novel that was similar to what was going on that we were talking about with the pets or threat. And I feel like we've gotten to the point where we're starting to feel so victimized, so beat up, so oppressed that we really can't get out of that part of the cycle, right? And so, as an ICF coach, how would we navigate with clients how to get out of that cycle of feeling like a victim or feeling like an imposter, and move them into reimagining who they are, who they've always been, who they were to begin with, and how they can be better regardless of what people say or do or fear about them?
Yeah. Takes us back to our look, the federal government corporate days, wherever you lived in the game, I call it. So many places to go with that. So it's making me think of a group of PhDs that I'm going to have the privilege of working with, women who want to come out the gate owning that, yes, I put the work in. Yes, this is my reward, and I'm not going to shrink for anyone, because you, whoever the you is, and whatever the you people look like, are threatened by my excellence and my brilliance. So a couple of things are running in my head. I read this one book very recently called The Courage to be Disliked. I'm gonna mess up the name. It's by a Japanese author, but look it up. It's a sequel, The Courage to be Disliked. Read that first, and then The Courage to be Happy. But in this book, he brought up a couple of concepts. One that I really appreciated was understanding the importance of the separation of tasks. And what that means is, we as individual human beings, I'm not even talking coaches right now, just as Black women, we need to understand what our tasks are, and we decide what they are. We go to school, we get educated, we get our degrees, we do all the things. And that's our task, because that's what we want to do. And then our task is also to own it and to never shrink. And in spaces where people are trying to make us shrink or are trying to, I had someone tell me when I worked for Treasury, and it happened to be a Caucasian supervisor, and I was doing a presentation, and he said to me, "Oh, when you speak, your New York accent comes out." I thought that was interesting. I said, "Oh yeah, because I'm from New York." Well, I think you should slow down when you speak. Did anyone say that they had a problem understanding me? No, 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 no. I'm just thinking. Pause. I'm always going to speak like this because I'm from New York. Anything else? Like, that was the end of the conversation for me. But I'll never forget that I thought, if someone is from another culture, let's say a European culture of some sort, and they have an accent, would that be a problem? Probably not. Did I change the way that I spoke? Absolutely not. I probably brought it on more. So I earned the right to be where I was. I didn't cower in that moment because my task was to understand who I am and to own that. And I'm proud of that. It's part of my identity. This was years ago, but so what? So today, I feel like even more so, it is our task to know who we are, to stand 10 toes down in who we are, whether we're from the South and we have that beautiful, sweet Southern twang, whether we're from the North and we say coffee instead of, I don't know how else to say coffee, but you know what I'm saying? Like, own that. There is the other side of the separation of tasks is that people are either going to like you or they're not. That's their task, their choice. And I don't even know. I had this coat with this little, like, I don't know, fur stuff. I don't even know if it was real fur or not. I didn't care. I just liked it. My supervisor at that same company or organization, federal government, came in and rubbed it. I was like, what are you doing? Don't let us start talking about people rubbing our hair. You changed your, excuse me. When I walk up to a beautiful Caucasian woman with straight hair and just be like, oh, your hair's so straight today. We would never do that, right? So I just think that we have to be comfortable in our own skin. We have to love who we are. I remember when I cut all my hair off and I had it short and natural and curly. I didn't even know my hair was so pretty because I had that perm stuff all them years. And I remember people like, your hair looks so good. Your hair looks so good. I was like, well, thank you. I'm glad you like it. But it didn't even matter because I like it. My kids didn't even like it. It didn't matter. Separation of tasks. You can have your opinion. I'm really not interested. You can share it if you want, but I'm not asking for your approval. So I think it's really about, I think the first place it starts is understanding that we have to stand 10 toes down and love who we are, know the work that we put in, do our work, and go about living life and be happy. If we keep worrying about the infamous they and what they think and what they're going to say and how they're going to feel, we're not focusing on the right things. And we have to love on each other. We are 4 beautiful, melanated women of all different hues. Can nobody match this? Like, we are designed beautifully. From our eyes to our nose to our lips to our hair to our cheeks. Like, and so we need to like love on ourselves, love on each other, so that when we go into spaces and it's just us, we know we got love for ourselves and we know our girls love us. So when I go to talk to these women who are just graduating with their PhDs, worried about how people are going to perceive them and, you know, what life is going to now be like because they're going to be Dr. So-and-so, but will they be respected? You show your self-respect first. You teach people. My father used to always say, you teach people how to treat you. Yeah, okay, see? I saw you mouthing it. Go ahead. Tell me about it, Tara. Go ahead. Is it Tara or Tara?
It's Tara.
Tara,
it's
okay.
Tara.
Tell me.
But you're correct. I've heard the same thing. I don't know if it came. I'm sure it came from my parents or an aunt or somebody from the South. I feel like, which they all are. Taught me that. But right, you teach people how to treat you. I mean, it's a cardinal rule that I've grown up with. And you also reminded me of a statement that I used to say a lot when I first started in the profession I'm in now, working for the federal government, because I came in with locks. And at the time, 20 years ago, there were different feelings around coming into the federal government with locks in your hair. And I remember I think it was a Martin Luther King phrase, but I altered it. And I was just like, you will not judge me by the color of my skin or the way I wear my hair, but you will judge me based on my intelligence. in what I know. And that's kind of what I stood on when I first got into that space, to kind of help me stay grounded and loving on myself, right? Remembering that I did work hard. Like I learned a lot to be able to apply for that job and get it. You know, I did a lot of studying. I did a lot of staying up late. I learned a lot of equations to be able to go into that building and be able to sit in front of those people and present myself worthy of working there. So when you say those statements, excuse me, make you teach people, you teach people how to treat you. You're not going to judge me based on the way I look, but you are going to judge me based on my mind, right? Like I will give you that much, right? And then when you do that, you can say what you want, but you will say, wow, I mean, I can't take away what she know. You don't have to like me, but you will know what I know. You know what I mean? And you will know that I don't come in here playing no games, because again, I was taught you got to be better than everybody else, right? You can't show up in the room mediocre. That's unacceptable. If you want to be in the room, you have to be excellent, right? That's a lot of pressure, but I think I love the way you said, but we love on ourselves though with that, right? And we hold that, and we hold it as an honor for ourselves. You've worked hard to be in this space. So I like the way that you responded to that question, about how do you reimagine it? You just remember who you are. You remember what you've gone through. You remember what you've studied. You remember what you've learned. You remember how hard you prepared. And when you walk in the room, you carry that with you. That's the confidence that you bring into that room. So I appreciate you for saying that, because when I go in there tomorrow, I'm like, listen.
Yeah.
I remember. I remember the late nights. I remember putting my kids to sleep and being like, ooh, I still got to figure out this, that, and the third, and all of these other things. So I appreciate you for reminding us to love on ourselves and remember our journey of how we got here.
I had a mentor. Yeah, we used to, have the meetings in the big conference room, right around the big conference table. And I would go in. At first I was sitting around the back on the chairs on the outer side, not at the table. And then I started just observing, who was sitting there. And one day I was like, I'm sitting at the table. Let somebody ask me to move if I'm not supposed to be here, quote unquote. Ain't nobody gonna do that. Sit at the table.
Mm-hmm.
Sit at the table. So
that's powerful. So MCC Coach Chéri, how does the IFC framework help us make sure that the client is solving their problem?
So that's where the competencies come in and where the structures come in, because it focuses on going in with the coaching mindset, number one. And I guess it even starts before that, our ethics, right? Our ethics are that this is coaching. This is not mentoring. This is not therapy. This is not consulting. So first of all, making sure that we explain to any client that we're working with what is different about coaching. And then when we implement the coaching competencies, the listening, the building trust, right, and really creating that safe space for the client to do their work, it's what the client wants. And that's the main question. Client, first of all, I see you. I see you're here because you have an unsolvable problem up until now. What is it that you want? Tell me, client, what you want more of in your life and what you want less of. How do you want to maximize fulfillment and joy and satisfaction and minimize regret? And then you let them talk. And they will tell you the cares of their heart, that you ask them the questions, and they, through their talking, come up with their own conclusions. So it's really about staying in, probably I would say 85% of the art of inquiry, asking them the question and listening and not doing so much what we at first, all of us did this, I think, at first when we learned how to coach, is we reiterate everything they say, So what I think I'm hearing you say is, what I think you said is, tell me if I got this right. Oh, we just go, okay. So based on that, just go to our next thing and go deeper. And it's almost like, I feel like it's like getting into the pool. And if you go on the steps, you take a step down, and then you take a step down. And, first that water's cold, but then as you get, once they said, just go all the way in. And I said, that's what I think is masterful coaching. Is we just jump in. They said, as soon as you jump in the water and go, you can put your shoulders in, don't feel as cold. And I think that's what masterful coaching does. We don't do all that other stuff. We just like, let's just go. And we get in, and now we're all warm and fuzzy. And for some strange reason, I tend to make people cry. And I love it. And they'd be like, I'm sorry. So I'm like, oh, no, honey. This is where it's at. Now I tell all my girls this though. Get your tissue, because if I see you taking your clothes and wiping your eyes, because this is very, very sensitive, get some tissue and pat. And then you can cry all you want. Right? So I really think that it's just remembering the mindset that we don't have no answers. That's the beautiful thing about coaching. If anything, out of all them studying, the days of studying and doing all the things we did, we don't have to know the answers. It's what a relief it is. Quite frankly, I just need to be with you. Let you know I see you, I feel you, I hear you, and I am championing for you to win whatever you want to win. And once we remember that, we just ask them those questions. And then that's when the provocateur can kind of come in. It's like, oh, now I get to challenge you a little bit, because now you playing it too safe, because I done got to know you after a few sessions, and now I know you playing it safe. Now I'm going to provoke you. And that comes from a framework called RESPECT. There's a RESPECT coaching styles certification. I highly recommend you look into it when you have to do your CCEUs. You go to R.E.A.L.Talk.com. My friend David Morelli is the creator of the RESPECT coaching styles. And I almost feel like I should have had this first. At another session, maybe I'll come back and we'll talk about it. But in 7 questions only, you can have transformation using RESPECT coaching styles. RESPECT stands for the 7 styles of the coaching. I won't go into it now, but you can go on to the owlhub.com. You can also I think there's a free assessment, gives you a little bit of a taste for it to see kind of what kind of style we like to be coached in. A certain style might not be the same style that we like to do our coaching in. It's very interesting. So there's styles, and then there's levels of directness, either direct or indirect. When I first took his assessment, I met him at the ICF 2023 conference in Florida. And I was like, what is this? And I was fascinated. And then I started talking to him, and I took the certification, and he calls it the magic trick. And we learned to coach using 7 questions. You can't ask more than 1 question in one style. And the transformation that we saw happen was what we would see happen in 30 minutes or 15 minutes. It takes like 7 minutes, depending on how much, how long the client answers. Very powerful. So the art of inquiry, and then knowing that we're asking questions. Okay, so there are some questions that are based on like being a confidant, right? Just kind of asking questions, but helping your client know that you see them and hear them, right? That's the whole showing empathy and listening with empathy. But the P in respect is the provocateur, and that's where I started, the provocateur. And that's where you're saying, so you said this, but you did that. Tell me, how did you make that decision? It's kind of direct. I could soften it and ask it in an indirect way. But what I learned is when I took that assessment, I was less of a provocateur. And I wasn't using all the styles. I was, higher on some than the other. 3 years later, after practicing and keeping all of those things in mind in the art of inquiry, but using respect and knowing what I was specifically doing, I was more rounded out and I was more of a provocateur than I was. It grew because I was now focused on it. Very, very highly recommend that. So we should talk more about, we'll talk more about that in the future when you want to talk about like different, tools that are out there and certifications. That is one I highly recommend. Highly recommend. So asking those questions and staying in the mindset of, I don't have to know the answers and this is great. And I'm curious about what you're going to say. And for you to hear yourself answer the question that nobody's asked you. Because you can't ask yourself these questions. That's why they need us as coaches.
Wow, we're getting a whole lesson right here. We're
I'm all
getting
over the
our
place.
our CCUs right here. But Coach Sheree, we talked about this a little bit. What I'm about to go into, we talked about this a little bit earlier about how the world has changed over the past year and a half or so. We know since January 20th of 2025, just putting it out there, transparent. And it's fast, like things are just changing so fast from the reduction in the federal workforce, which we all have experienced at one degree or another, to the increasing use of AI and how that is impacting our lives. And so we all are in different and familiar spaces where we've had to learn to either pivot or perish. So I'm going to start with you with this question, Coach Sheree. If you could put an emotion, what your physical response when you hear pivot or perish, what emotion would you put on that? What physical response do you have?
Jump up. Let's get it. Like, I'm not going to perish. It's to me, it's like challenge. Let's go. Like, let's go. And I will say that proof of my answer is that go back to COVID, so 6 years ago, right? When that happened, I was already like doing a little side hustle, but nothing like just consulting on the side, my government gig, but consulting on the side. Then when COVID happened, I was like, oh, I got time to build my company. So I did it. I got time to get on this coaching bench. I did it. And then when 2025 came, I was like, it's been nice getting this money over here and that money over there. And now I could say goodbye to this money over here because I could retire now because I've worked for it. So I could retire. And like, this has been in play now for 5 years. I'm never going to perish. So my thing is, stay on your toes. I'm a dancer. Stay on your toes because to turn, if you're on your toes and not flat-footed, you'll be able to turn on a dime. So to me, even when things are going well, you should still always be looking at operating your plan B and your plan C. So that when it's time to pivot, you're not like, okay, I need to pivot. What do I do now? It's like, oh, it's time to expand what I've already had in play. Because if you're just thinking about what you should do when it's time to pivot, you're already a little too late. You're going to be behind the eight ball. It doesn't mean you can't catch up. Just like when AI came out. Well, I didn't know what the 2 letters stood for, right? But when I started hearing all this buzz about it, I got into the master classes. I was following people out in Washington. So by the time people started like, oh yes, yeah, I'm on. I'm like, oh, you don't know about this one? ChatGPT. Let me tell you about this one. That's for beginners. You already need to have known that one so you can know about what Gemini, Claude, Manus, all of those things. So because like Tara said, we need to be 10 times better just to get on the field. So while things are calm or while we're in, what we might feel is feast versus famine, don't rest on your laurels. It's time those are the times when you need to be upskilling and branching out and always networking and connecting. And like, we need to help and support each other, just like we've been doing. Oh, I heard about that. Sharon, you sent me something today. I saw this. I wanted to share with you. Thank you very much. Right? We need to give freely. There's so much work out here. If we have an abundant mindset, not only are we going to pivot because we already got stuff in the works anyway, but we're going to bring people with us. Because that's love. And really, at the end of the day, yeah, we trying to make money, feed our families, feed ourselves, but it all starts with love. And that's why we're coaches. Because we have love for strangers we haven't even met yet. And we see potential in people that they haven't even seen in themselves, ever, if at all, or maybe have lost it. And this is in the back of my head, imposter syndrome. There's a article called Erasure, and I'll send it to Sharon, and then you can send it out or post it or whatever you do. But there was one thing that says, stop telling women that they have imposter syndrome. And I thought I was like, what is this about? Because a lot of people were coming and saying, I feel like I'm an imposter, I lost my confidence. So many of us have been traumatized in the workplace. We got PTSD because of supervisors, like I mentioned earlier. By the way, the end of that story was that I happened to contribute to a book, and he and I are right next to each other in the book. I said, of all the people to put me next to in the book, it was him. But you know what I did? Even before, may he rest in peace. Because he stopped talking to me after I left that job, by the way. I left that job. I caught him doing something that was not legal, and I called him on it. And so he was mad at me. And what I realized is that was his way of trying to get back at me when I then worked for him. But when I realized, I was like, he's not talking to me. So I reached out to him. I was like, hey, let's go to lunch. Clearly there's something between us and we should solve this. He's like, yeah, sure. I saw him at a conference. Yeah, sure. But he didn't want to. And so anyway, he left this, side of life, and we never got to, resolve it. I resolved it in my heart because out of love, it's all about love. I tried to resolve that. But anyway, I just wanted to close that little loop. But that erasure thing and the imposter syndrome, the article brought out that, no, you're not imagining things. When you're in the workforce, people are withholding information from you. They are not sharing the tidbits that would help you do your job better or keep you informed. They are letting you miss meetings, things like that. That's not in, people's imagination. So gaslighting doesn't just happen, in intimate relationships. It happens at work too. There are narcissists, supervisors, co-workers, people that take credit for your work. So all that stuff we're dealing with all of that. But in love, we can combat that once we know what we're dealing with, and then just, never. What I love, what Michelle say, that when they go low, we go. Say it again, y'all. Yeah, we go. So I just think, so that whole imposter syndrome, there may be some things where you're like, no, let's not say I have imposter syndrome. Let's say I'm working on increasing my confidence. Now I have imposter syndrome. You don't have no diagnosis. And half of what you're feeling is because it's what people doing. It's all that negative energy. But we can work on expanding your presence and increasing your confidence so that you can go in the room, look around, and sit at the table and smile and say, hi, my name is Chéri. Hi, my name is Coach Tara. Hi, I'm Terry. Hi, I'm Coach Sharon and Coach Tara. Yes, it's a pleasure to meet you. What do you do? Let's be the first one to ask the questions. before they start grilling us. Anyway, I don't know what you asked me, and I don't know. I can't believe 56 minutes have. I was like, what's over 9:05? Look, I'm having so much fun.
It's all good. I don't know if Coach Terry or Coach Tara, if one of you want to share, like when you hear pivot or perish, what emotion, what physical response do you have?
So I used to run around always saying failure is not an option. So I think my response is just it won't crush me, right? Like it might hurt and it might crush me. I might be down for a minute or something, right? But failure is not an option. So I will win. We will win, right? Everybody in my sphere, we will win. We will find a way to win. It might be difficult, it might be tough, but I mean, that's life. It ain't been easy yet. So I don't necessarily expect it to be easy moving forward. So for me, it's a drive. I think it does become a driver, right? And it just reminds me that, again, there's been a lot that's already gotten me here that hasn't ended me. So, I might need to cry, I might need to pray, I might need to talk, I might need to journal, I might need to go hug 3 trees, all of that good stuff. But at the end of the day, what I know for a fact is that I'm not going to fail. So we will move forward. We will overcome.
Yeah. I think so too. Like, I know that all I can ever think of is who's been here before, right? Our ancestors didn't give up and they had it much worse than we did, right? And they left that legacy of, I don't care how many times you fall, you're going to get up, you're going to keep getting up. And it's just like how my, dad taught me to ride a bike, fall, get right back on it, No one can control what you think. No one can control how you feel. They can try to oppress you at work or lay you off or fire you or do whatever. But at the end of the day, you are still in control. And you just have to remember that. So that's how I feel. What about you, Coach Sharon?
Well, what comes up in me, pivot or perish? I've been in a lot of situations where I thought I was going to perish, but I figured out a way to pivot, and that pivot wasn't always immediate, right? That I had to go through some things externally and internally to figure out, okay, what's the best option for me to pivot so I won't perish. And um, I've done that, and I see, from jobs I've had to my personal life, been able to pivot and just continue to grow and learning from those times where I thought I was going to perish. As we were talking, I thought back to our words for the year that we had talked about. And, my word is right here, faith. And so going what Coach Tara said, failure is not an option. If I have faith, when I put my faith in place, rather, then perishing is not an option. I just have to know how to pivot, and that made me bringing other people in to help me to navigate that space because I can't do everything by myself. And so those are things that I keep in my mind. So yeah, that's me. So I'm gonna turn it back over to you, Coach Terry.
That makes a lot of sense because I was just thinking before we got on here, I was like, God, okay, my word is belief, right? But every time I pick a word, Lord, you just want to make sure I learned that lesson, for the year. So I'm like, next time I'm picking something like flowers or, whatever, joy or something, because yeah, my belief has been stretched, but at the end of the day, I'm still blessed, right? I'm still here. I have a lot to be grateful for. I just like, what we were talking about, love, that, what, at the end of the day, that's what matters. Love. Because when you love, I'm telling you, it comes back to you. When you love, you're able to help people see what they couldn't see by themselves, right? Which is one of the main reasons why I love coaching. When you love, you just remember what's important in life, and who's important in your life. And things always have a way of working out when you choose to believe in love, right? And so, I think that, I'm going to turn this back over to Coach Tara so we can kind of wrap this up because we've been talking for a minute.
Well, Coach Chéri, MCC, Coach Chéri, this has really been a very engaging, very informative conversation. I learned a lot, which I expected to, because again, you are the PhD of coaching, right? So it's not unfathomable that we would not get in this space, and not only would our audience be able to learn and grow, learn about ICF coaches, learn about your experience, learn about you, but it was inevitable that we would walk away with some nuggets of our own. So I appreciate you for sharing with us and for being with us. And for our audience, we really want to know, if you had a wonderful, eloquently speaking, energetic MCC coach in front of you, like Coach Chéri, what would you want to ask her? What would you want to know? What would you really want that coach, that PhD level, that ICF certified coach, what would you want them to help you with right now? And we'd really like our audience to drop that in the chat, so that we can build discussion around that. And we can, talk about some of the things that will help to cause that transformation that we've talked about, right? As coaches, we are excited to co-create, as Coach Chéri has shared with us those terms with you. So please, audience members, just what's one question that you would like to ask not only a master certified coach, but an ICF trained coach? How can we help you? Coach Terry.
Oh, it's my turn? So our Real Talk Coaching, our framework is built on the ICF Foundation. So if you're ready to see what it's all about, just send an email to info@realtalkcoaching.net for an introductory Real Talk Coaching call and experience what partnership and co-creating looks like firsthand. And also, we are going to definitely put MCC Coach Chéri's information in the description of our video. So I'm going to turn this over to Coach Sharon for our final word.
Yes, so you know the drill. You know what you need to do. First, you want to make sure that you're subscribing to our channel so you won't miss any of the exciting episodes that we are dropping on a regular basis. Second, you want to make sure that you're liking this episode, as well as go back and listen to the ones that you missed or re-listen to the ones that you heard before and pick up those nuggets that you didn't hear. And also, we want you to share this information with others because you never know who it could touch, who needs it, people that you may not even suspect. Like, don't just share an episode, just say, hey, you need to listen to this podcast. Just share the link to the entire YouTube channel with your friends and family because you don't know who the information could help. And as Coach Terry has already said, reach out to us. We want to hear from you. So you can reach out to us at info@realtalkcoaching.net or dropping your comments into the chat, because we want to know what you're thinking and we want to know more about you. And we always want to leave with letting you know that we are always here and we are always wanting you to keep reimagining everything about life. Until next time.